till October.
Okay.
End of September, October. So they've got us in the rain this year.
How many takes did it take? How many takes did it take to get that grin right at the end of the season? Yeah.
I don't know, a few. I guess it was also more than anything the whole camera move as well to kind of time it all out. So it was good. So a good few takes, but it seemed okay in the end.
Who's the Norman who we meet in season 3? Has he
I don't know.
No script yet?
No, nothing at all. It's funny because you probably think I'm hiding some big thing that I have hidden away about Norman, but not at all. They haven't written any of the script yet, and what they have done is kind of kept away from us for now.
Where do you hope it goes?
I'm intrigued. People always say Bates Hotel. They keep saying, "Oh, I love Bates Hotel." Yeah, Bates Hotel. So it amuses me the idea that there's some kind of upgrade in the motel. They move into the centre of White Pine Bay. They got the big story skyscraper, get over the views. It goes global. But no, I don't know. Realistically, I think it's continuing his kind of descent into insanity, and also to what point do we stop supporting Norman and stop sort of loving him? At the end of last season, you realise Norman can be quite manipulative about certain things, and has this conscience now of what he's capable of, and so. To what extent will he always remain the good guy, or the guy that we can at least pretend is nice?
How much have they explained to you as far as his fugue states? How much can he remember now? Is he completely aware of what he's doing in those states?
No, I guess that's another thing to sort of explore further. But I'd still say he's a nice guy. It's the kind of ultimate. In some ways perceived, the suicide at the end as something many people would say is selfish, but I think in Norman's case it is a truly selfless thing. He's only taking himself out of the world because he wants to stop harming people and doesn't want to not be able to control himself anymore. So I think it's an honourable thing to do in this case.
What do you think would happen to Norman if Normal was out of the picture?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure they'd survive without each other, really. Or we'd certainly go mad. I guess we see that in Psycho. That's the ultimate sort of end. That Norma's no longer there, and it's also this idea of kind of playing in his mind, or his reality becomes more internal than external. And so developing that sort of story of what's going on in his own mind being as important to him as what's actually real. And so for people watching, the kind of made-up myth through Norman's eyes is his most sort of immediate reality.
Which side of Norman do you like playing the most? There's a lot of shades to him, so...
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I guess from the start it's been nice to sort of play against people's expectations of who Norman is. So because he's such a well-known serial killer, and you know kind of how he ends up in Psycho, you could sort of subvert people's expectations by arriving on the first day and saying, no, he's completely nice, and people will kind of portray their own previous expectations and knowledge of who he's going to become onto that performance. And so you don't have to push it out as much, and you can just sort of play against it completely and have that underlying. And I think that's what the joy of Bates Motel is kind of in the nuances and in the subtext, as opposed to the overtly playing Norman being someone who's nasty or a serial killer in a traditional mold. And that extends as well to his relationship with his mother. The kiss at the end that people talk about is only weird because you know that there's something dodgy between them, or maybe not. That's what they would say. But that's the fun in it, the kind of uncertainties, and who knows whether spooning in bed is acceptable or it's gone past the point of being so.
Well, how do you feel about the fact that there's a whole generation of horror fans and just moviegoers in general who don't know about Psycho, that are getting all the information from this show? Like, I ran into one young person who was like, oh my gosh, Psycho, that sequel to Bates Motel. And I was like, have you seen it? And you're like, no, but I can't wait to see what that guy does based on Freddie's performance. I was like, all right, sure. How does that make you feel?
No, it's bizarre. Yeah. Very odd. But it works as a series on its own. I think the knowledge that he's going to turn out, I remember telling someone else that one, they're like, oh, what's his guy? Oh, obviously we know Psycho. And they're like, what do you mean we know he's going to be So I guess people also don't want to believe that that's going to have to be the end one day. You want a different outcome, and you keep hoping that it will be, but I don't think it will.
You're so great at transitioning between the evil Norman and the good Norman just through like a look, and I'm wondering what the audition process was like, back before season 1. Like, did you have to pull that off in the audition?
No, that wasn't really a part of it. I guess it's just come about throughout the seasons, and that's what I love about the scripts as well, and why Kerry and Carlton are so good as writers. So much of the important stuff isn't said, and I think on TV sometimes you can get a little lost in sort of plot and constantly retelling things and all about talking, as opposed to a scene where there's a lot of silence, or even one of the first scenes in the second season where Norman finds out that Miss Watson's dead, and kind of the important stuff isn't being said, and it's just, as you say, in the looks, and that's so much more fun to play as actors to have a kind of ultimate scene for me would almost be one of complete silence, where you get what's going on but you don't need to say.
Were you surprised how much of a lady killer he's turned out to be for the past 2 seasons? He gets all the girls.
It's a nice jump he's got, isn't it?
Not yet.
Knitwear is very cool, I guess, I don't know why they'd want to jump in both Norman Bates, I guess they don't know. Potentially surprised, but then I don't know, what does that say about me? It's kind of like, are they surprised that you're having all of these girls? So
I definitely don't think that it's you. Like, character.
I know. No, it just amuses me when people are like, why do you think you're getting all these girls in the show? I'm sorry.
Well, it seemed like they would want to make him kind of like the loner that people had an odd sense about, and yet he's becoming very socialized. He's becoming welcomed into the world readily. So it's surprising.
Yeah, I guess he's. That's also the thing sometimes about people who end up sort of committing these horrific acts and going mad. They are integrated in society to some extent, and people do know who they are. And it's not like, oh yes, there was this really scary man who has been living around for years and years. Or like, oh yeah, I knew him. He was maybe slightly odd, but no one would have known what was going on inside his mind. And that's what makes it scarier as well. If Norman was completely removed and just this weirdo on his own, then he'd kind of draw attention to himself, and people would come to expect, Norman the serial killer. But when he's sort of fits in and gets by, that's when it's scarier, because it could be anyone that you know.
Yeah, well, his brother Dylan seems to be kind of the loner now, which was kind of a role reversal from where we first met them both.
Yeah.
So you kind of starting to wonder if Dylan might be somehow off.
You mean Dylan's Norman or some sort of weird twist? I don't think so yet.
Do you and Max kind of sit back and speculate a little bit? Hey, what's going on here?
No, it's just fun to kind of think of potential stories, but then ultimately you're in the hands of the great writers. So.
Do you think the fact that Norman passed the lie detector test at the end of season 2 makes him more or less suspicious now to Norma and Romero and everyone else in his life?
I don't know. I guess Romero's always seems to be incredibly suspicious of Norman, and kind of knows. It's almost as if he knows the truth and is trying, for whatever reason, to cover it up.
Yeah, he seems like he loves that family for whatever weird reason.
He's not normal himself. There's something wrong with that guy.
I love Romero. He makes me laugh. It's the sort of dark humour in Bates, and I think Nestor's so fantastic at bringing that out in his character. It's the sort of underplaying and like throwaway of a line which almost gives you nothing at all, but I just find it so funny. You just have to jiggle it, or it's this like one-liner. He's brilliant.
I'm glad that is what makes you laugh. You're just sitting there watching Romero scenes being like...
No, he comes in and plays with his badge, and I don't know, he's got all this stuff going on that's so subtle. And there's a great video that's going to be there and played on the panel today, and he's hilarious in it. So it'll be fun.
So I think the last question, I know that you're not on Twitter and you don't plan to be on social media, so is there something you'd like to say to your fans, or where they keep in contact with you? I know they often approach you, and there's a lot of fangirls that are really interested in you, and they think Norman Bates is hot, and they think that you're hot.
Stay away from Norman.
That's the message.
No, I guess, yeah, exactly, yeah. Stay well clear.